Hi, everybody. I'm making sure we are recording for those who this is being recorded. Perfect. Hi, welcome. Welcome to
What?
5 Ways to Toughen Your Mental Game. I'm Meredith Atwood, and whoops,
I'm Deb
now I get it
Chesler.
right. That way is Deb. So thank you all for joining us this evening. Super exciting. So hopefully everyone can hear. Okay, someone said hello, so that means Mary, your hair is killer. It's not flock of seagulls. Are you sure? It feels a little flock of seagulls tonight. Hi, everybody. Oh, we're so glad. So glad everyone's hearing and here. Perfect. Okay, beautiful. So before Deb starts telling us the 5 ways to toughen your mental game, there's actually 6. You guys get a bonus if you can stay with us long enough, right, Deb?
That's right. Hang in there.
The funny thing is, before I do these webinars, I always brush my teeth. What do you think about that, Deb? Do we have smell-o-vision?
Well, I always check my teeth, but I
Yeah,
don't.
I brush them. So that's my fun fact. I told you I had a fun fact for the evening. There it is.
Okay.
So you guys, if you don't know Deb is a peak performance coach, and she is one of the best in the country. We started working together, I don't know, 6, 8, 9, 10 months ago. I don't know. But Angie, who works with her, who's part of her organization, was on my ambassador team in 2015. So that's how I came to know Angie and then came to know Deb. So we go way back.
Oh, yeah.
But Deb is fantastic, and we just started a series together called Your Brave Mind, and we've done 2 installments already and have another one coming up, so we'll talk about that later. But Deb is pretty incredible. I just had her on the podcast, last week? Was it last week?
Yeah, I
And
think
we
so.
learned about Deb's flying supersonic jets, which is incredible, and just really a great story. And Deb, I wanted to tell you, my mom listened to the podcast. She has not been able to get the podcast working on her phone, and so she got it working, and you were the one she listened to, and she was like, she's just wonderful. So that's straight from the mother, and I think you're just wonderful too. So well, let's get started. Let's get started. Let's toughen our mental game.
Okay. Well, right back at you on the I think you're wonderful part. It has been so much fun working together on this. We both bring so much to the table, and I know we're helping a lot of people, and that's awesome.
That's right.
So, toughening your mental game, much easier said than done. We've all got that little voice in our head that's and you know, in our series, as many of you know, we've been calling it the bully in your brain. I also like to refer to it as logic. You know, so let me give you just a little bit of background, because the bottom line in controlling or enhancing mental toughness is to shut down that little voice in your head and to listen to the other voice in your head that's usually being snuffed out. So that voice is logic. It's the bully in your brain. It's basically your past experience and your knowledge. It's everything you've done and everything you know, your history, the experiences that go with it. So anytime you dare to have a new creative thought, or you know, you look out the window and you see something, or you hear something, or you smell something, I mean, anytime you have a thought, there's that little voice trying to analyze it and comment on it. And, well, I think I should run another Ironman. Well, you can't. But that voice comes up, right? I mean,
Right.
so that's logic. That's the bully in your brain. That's the problem with mental toughness, is the logic wins most of the time, and we back down and we quit and we berate ourselves. And even if we press forward, we don't enjoy it. We feel bad. I mean, it's just crappy what we have to go through. So here's the thing. I think everybody knows, correct me if I'm wrong here, Meredith, you might, or you'd be the first ever that didn't know, that we have 5 senses, right? What are your 5 senses?
Oh, geez. This is where everyone's gonna go click. She really is stupid. We do have 5 senses. We can see, we can hear, we can smell, we can taste, and we can What am I missing?
Starts with
See,
the T. You're
hear,
doing it right now.
okay.
To your nose.
Touch.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Oh my gosh,
Okay.
it's like I just failed kindergarten. No.
So, as you just said, any kindergartner can tell you, and they're proud.
I should have just brought the kids down. I put them to bed. I should have just gotten the kids. And
Okay.
like, mommy
So
needs help. Mommy's a clear need.
that's right. So we can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. And any child knows that. We teach it in school. It's a big deal when they get it right on their test. But yet, any animal on the planet can do those 5 things. All animals can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. A pig, a horse, a dog, a cat. So in that regard, we're no different than the animals. But as human beings, we have this thing called an intellect. Now that probably
Or a lack of intellect, apparently.
So here's the thing. We have 5 senses that we can't control. Things just come in and it is what it is. But we have 6 intellectual faculties. And that's where you said, Meredith, we're going to do 5 keys to enhancing mental toughness, but we're actually going to do 6 and do a bonus. Because there's 6 intellectual faculties. Now, intellectual faculties are literally like mental muscles. So just like any other muscle in your body, you can train it, you can train it, you can grow it, you can control it if you know how. But could you list our 6 intellectual faculties? Do you know what they are?
I have a list, so that's technically cheating. Would you like me to read it?
Oh, okay, but before Angie sent you the list this afternoon, had you ever even heard of it?
No. No, she sent me the list and it said, "Well, we're going to talk about the intellectual faculties." And I was like, "Great.
What's that?
What?" It's like brains, left matter, left gray matter, right gray matter. I know.
Yeah,
I don't even know. No clue that we have 6 mental faculties. Are you sure everyone does? I might only have 3.
I think you're good.
Okay, so 6 mental faculties. Is this like this is the end of it? This is extensive list, exhaustive list.
I missed that. What did you say?
So are there only 6 or are
Yes.
there?
No,
Okay.
there are only 6. But
Okay.
they're muscles. You know, if you want to be a better runner, you develop your leg muscles. If you want to be a better swimmer, you develop all kinds of muscles in your back and your shoulder and your legs. And biking, of course, with the legs. And it, but yet mental muscles, we don't even know that they exist. See, after you hear about all this tonight, you know, just imagine if we taught this stuff in school and kids knew about this from the start. This world will be a whole other place. So I want to go through each one tonight, and when you hear them, it's going to be like, oh, well, I knew that, but you didn't really know what it was or how to use it.
No.
And after tonight, you're going to be a powerhouse because there's all these things you can do. All right? Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Do it.
So you want to read them off? You said you have the list. Why don't you tell everybody what our 6 intellectual faculties are?
I hope I wrote them down correctly. Okay, so number 1 is reason. Number 2 is will, and I assume that's will, like free will or willpower. I guess we'll cover it.
We'll get to it.
Perception is number 3. Memory is number 4. Intuition is number 5, and imagination is our bonus. Number 6.
Yep. Except I'm going to mix up the order and mess up everybody right from the start.
Okay, what are we going to do? What order are we putting them in? The
Doesn't matter.
And me. Okay.
Doesn't matter.
You're just trying to make my brain work.
I am. Okay. So perception, will, imagination, memory, intuition, and reason. Whatever order. The order really doesn't matter. We'll just cover them randomly, whatever pops into my head. But let's talk about perception first, because that's a huge one. So perception, you know, is the room, everybody on the webinar tonight, is the room you're sitting in or the car you're sitting in, is it big or small? Is it hot or cold? Are you tall or short? Are you thin or overweight? the answer is it depends, right? If talk about this room, well, if I compare it to an outhouse, then this room is huge. But if I compare it to the Coliseum, then it's small. If I compare myself to a sumo wrestler, I'm pretty small. If I compare myself to a 5-year-old, I'm pretty big. So perception controls how we think about our reality. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
I am very small next to a sumo wrestler. I would like to see a sumo wrestler right now.
There you go. I don't think you want to see a sumo wrestler. It's usually not a very pretty sight.
That's just perception, Deb. I might perceive them
That's
very
true.
beautiful.
Very true. Okay, so unfortunately, logic, that little voice in our head, our past experience, our knowledge, tends to control all these intellectual faculties because we've not even been taught that they exist, let alone how to use them to our benefit. So in the case of perception, something happens and we tend to compare it in a way that gives it the worst possible light. So, you know, your mirror.
Yes, why do we do that?
I mean, your mirror example is perfect, right? Every time you walk by a mirror, you're comparing yourself to something that makes you say cringe, right?
Yeah.
Well, what if every time you walk by a mirror, you thought about a sumo wrestler?
I might like get my big diaper on and think that I was one though.
So perception is no more than a comparison. And everybody's perception is different because it depends on the knowledge and experience that we have. So any two people can be in the same place at the same time experiencing the same thing, and one sees an opportunity, one sees an obstacle. One's hot, one's cold, one's miserable, one's having a great time. It's all because they're comparing that moment to something, and the somethings are different because no two people are alike. Make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so logic gets control of that, and we always perceive things in the way that's going to upset us the most or make us feel. Because of all that stuff we talked about in the bully in your brain, we're caught in these thought feeling loops where 95% of the day, this is research, science clearly shows that 95% of the day we're thinking the same old thoughts, feeling the same old feelings, doing the same old things. We're in this rut and we're in this loop. And I'm gonna give you a preview of what's coming up on our next Your Brave Mind program in the series. But every time we have a thought, it causes a feeling. Well, feelings are literally chemicals that flood through our body, and chemicals are like narcotics, and we get addicted to them. So we get addicted to feeling bad or depressed or embarrassed or jealous, or think about it. Everybody has a feeling they tend to revert to, and you just kind of say, yeah, well, I'm an angry person generally. Right?
Yeah.
So anything that happens, logic's going to get hold of our experience and our knowledge, and it's going to send up an interpretation, which is perception, that makes sure we keep thinking and feeling the same way we always have, so that we stay stuck where we've always been. Because nobody wants to change. That's scary and uncomfortable because logic can't explain it. And so we have a fear of the unknown. We have a fear of failure, a fear of change, a fear of what somebody might think, a fear of success because, oh, what would I do if that really happened?
Right.
Yeah. So,
well, I heard somewhere, and maybe it was you, that said there's really no such thing as a fear of failure or success. It's just the fear of change. Because no matter which way you go, it's different than it was the absolute zero
exactly.
Analogy. But so it's really the fear of change that.
Right.
And how's that tied into perception? Because we perceive that the whole world is going to fall down, and we're going to, or we just. I mean, how does that tie into perception, the fear of change?
If you get this crazy idea to become a triathlete and someday do an Ironman, Well, that little voice in your head is going to creep up right away and say, well, you can't do that. You've never even run a 5K. You haven't been off the couch in 10 years. What are you thinking? You don't even know how to swim. Because if you were to become a triathlete and run an Ironman and complete it, you would have more self-esteem. You would feel good about yourself. You'd have something that you accomplished. Meanwhile, while you're training, all these things have to change in your life, and that affects your family, and it
Right.
affects your lifestyle, and it affects your job, and all that change is worth running from. So logic makes sure you perceive that it's too hard, it takes too much time, it's just not worth it, it's too uncomfortable, blah, 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 blah. Does that make sense?
Got it. Yeah, totally.
Okay. So perception is every single interpretation we have, every time we analyze or evaluate something that's happening in our life, it's perception, because somebody else could think of it totally differently. So let me give you a few ideas or examples of how that pops up in our lives. Let's say you want to trim down, start eating healthier, lose some weight. And then you go out with some friends to a restaurant, and going in, you're determined, I'm going to order something healthy off the menu. I'm going to have fun eating right. I don't care what they order. I'm going to do this right.
Right.
And then you get there and you open up the menu, nothing. Everything's got fancy sauces on it and French fries and all kinds of appetizers. And
Or fancy sauces and French fries. What if it has fancy sauce and French fries? Sorry.
So logic jumps in there, or the bully in your brain jumps in there and says, okay, well, there's nothing here I can eat. It's not my fault. One night's not going to hurt me anyway. And then all of a sudden we're getting the appetizer and the burger with fries and dessert because it's easier. And it's not my fault because there's nothing on the menu. Been there?
Right. My whole life, Deb. Thank you.
So
every meal I eat out.
What if you change the perception and say, you know what, I get to choose what I eat. Let me look at this menu. Well, they have this chicken thing over here with this fancy sauce and this, and it comes with French fries. But over here, they have broccoli with cheese on it with this other thing. And then over here, they have a loaded baked potato. Well, I get to be in charge of me, and a restaurant's a restaurant. What if I just ask the waiter, you know what, I would like a piece of plain grilled chicken and some plain broccoli and a baked potato with butter and sour cream on the side. 99 times out of 100, they will give you exactly what you asked for because they're cooking it all anyway. So why not? But yet we're afraid to ask.
I had this one instance at a restaurant in Savannah, and I was at the time eating completely vegan. I think I had gone 6 months with no animal products down to like not honey, not butter, anything. And I went to this restaurant and it was fancy schmancy. And I kind of thought there is literally nothing they're going to have for me here. But I asked the waitress and she's like, oh, the chef will make you something. And like, he made me this vegetable thing that it was, it was perfect. And it's really interesting. I think when you make those decisions to, the perception is the world is my oyster, right? That I'm going to meet these goals and I'm going to do what I need to do for myself. And then, the chef will rise up to meet you with his vegan plate.
And you know what usually happens? It's cheaper than anything you could have ordered on the menu.
Yeah, absolutely. It totally was.
Okay, so here's my favorite example of perception, and we'll start moving on because we've got other ones to cover. But have you ever noticed that when you're doing a 5K, you're exhausted, tired, and want to quit at about maybe 2 miles, 2.5 miles? That last mile is a killer.
Yeah.
But you're doing a half marathon, you don't even notice the 5K part go by. You're still going strong. You're still strong at the 10K, but you get to about 11, 12 miles, and you're like, oh, how am I going to finish this? Yes?
Right. Yes.
But then you're doing a marathon or an Ironman, and you don't even notice the half marathon distance. You're just going strong. That's perception. that no matter what distance you're running, you're going to want to quit about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way in.
Hmm.
So what if
Yeah.
you're out there running a 5K, but from minute one, you pretend that you're running a half marathon? If you could truly psych yourself out to this is a half marathon, you could breeze through that entire 5K and not even notice.
I'm gonna try that because I'm doing a 5K on Saturday, and I always go too fast when I start out on a half marathon. Um, so yeah, maybe I'll just pretend like I'm running a half marathon, see how that goes.
Now, easier said than done because for it to work, for it to be true perception, you have to believe it. And so it's really a trick to convince yourself you're running a half marathon when you know you're running a 5K. But the more minutes of pretending you can get in there, the more, you start feeling yourself slowing down and getting tired. You say, oh, come on, it's a half marathon. I got this. And little things
I,
can help give you a little burst of energy. Okay.
I love it. I
So
love it.
So that's my suggestion with perception is learn to recognize it and don't let it control you. You instead control it. So if you notice yourself going someplace negative or wanting to quit, your mental toughness is fading. Excuse my dog in the background deciding to wake up and shake like crazy. If you notice yourself doing that, then tell yourself, oh, that's just my perception. And then look for a different angle, a different thing to compare it to, a different thing to think about so that in comparison, it's not so bad.
Okay.
Okay.
Got
So
it.
that's a mental muscle. It's a skill. You got to practice it. All right. Number 2, your will. When I say will, and you already did it, most people think willpower. And
Right.
that's not what I'm talking about because willpower is force. And anytime you try to force something, it doesn't go as well. I mean, force negates everything. What I'm talking about is the power of your will, your ability to focus, to hold your attention. So let me give you a metaphor. I'm here in Florida, so we've got a bright, warm sun, and I can go over to the beach, and in an hour, I could get this nice golden tan sitting under the sun with proper sunscreen. But I could also go over to the beach, pull out a magnifying glass, hold it to my skin, and in less than 6 seconds, I could have a burn and a blister. So it's the same sun and the same energy, but whether you focus or not determines the power of it. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got to do that with our mind. If we focus on everything that could go wrong, might go wrong, always goes wrong, then guess what's going to happen? You're focusing on it, it's going to happen. If you're scattered all over the place trying to do 50 million things at once, you're not focusing on anything. But if you truly hold the image of what you want on the screen of your mind, focus on success, focus on the outcome you want, focus on the task at hand, then it's like that magnifying glass with the sun, that the energy intensifies and you can actually be more efficient, more productive, get through whatever it is you're trying to get through. Mental toughness goes through the roof because you're paying attention and you're focused instead of being scattered all over the place.
So can you focus on more than one thing?
Okay.
Like I know this is getting a little deeper, but when you say, do you do you focus on like one area of your life at a time? Do you have a focus in every area that's important? How do you balance?
Okay. The topic of balance.
I was just throwing you a bone there, Jeff.
Yeah, we're gonna do a whole week in the Your Bully in Your Brain series on just that topic because learning to have the proper kind of balance in your life, that's not a 2-minute conversation. But the bottom line is, I'll give you a quick overview of that. If you go for balance, you have 100% of your time, energy, and money to give. I mean, all this stuff of I'm going to give 1,000% today. I'm going to give 200%. There's no such thing. There's 100%. Well, if you're splitting 100% of your effort and energy between 5 different things, then you might have balance, but it's going to be balanced mediocrity, because 20% of your effort, really. But if you really want to go for something and really want to make it happen, then you've got to give in to an obsession, which is something we've been taught not to do, and really focus and obsess over that thing that you want and give it the majority of your energy. Use your will, the power of will, to stay focused on what you want. But here's the key. When most people do that, they don't understand what's happening and they become a workaholic. And workaholic can apply to training, to relationship, to a job, but it's the obsession that's out of control, and you go after what you want at the expense of everything else in your life. So you take the guy that's wanting to get promoted at work so that he can provide a better life for him and his family, becomes the ultimate workaholic, finally gets the big promotion and the six-figure salary, but he's overweight, has had 2 heart attacks, is divorced, and his kids won't talk to him. That's a workaholic.
Yeah.
But you want to be what I call off balance on purpose, which means use the power of your will to focus on what you want, to go after it with the majority of your energy, but still give enough of your effort to those other things in your life that matter to you so that they keep growing slightly as well. So you're using your power of will to focus on appropriate things at appropriate times, but you're not trying to make them all equal. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm sorry. I sent you on a rabbit trail.
That's all right. But here's a more immediate thing. Multitasking, one of my favorite topics. I used to pride myself on being this great multitasker and how many things I could get done at one time. Now, I'm terrible at it. I can't do it anymore. Literally, if I start thinking about something while I'm driving, I drive right past my own street into my own house. Angie's seen me do it all the time. She's following me home, and there I go, nowhere land, because I wasn't paying attention. So you ask, can you focus on 2 things at once? Actually, it is physiologically impossible for the brain to hold 2 thoughts at one time. So here's what happened. If you think back to like Depression era, the traditionalists, people were taught to focus and concentrate. But then we had this thing called computers invented, and we watched the computers do 15 things at once. And we thought, well, we can do that. And so we start trying to mimic computers, literally. But a computer is really only doing one thing at a time. It's just switching back and forth so fast that to us it appears it's doing 5 things at once. But technology has overcome that. So now we have dual core processors and quad core processors, which means the computer has 4 brains and it really can do 4 things at one time. Well, you're never going to have more than one brain, so you're never going to do more than one thing at a time. Sorry.
Don't like it.
So it's like juggling. Think about juggling. Everything you're trying to do is a ball, and you can throw it in the air and focus on the one in your hand, but as soon as you let go of the one in your hand, you have to focus on the next one that comes into your hand, and you're just juggling these balls. And every time you switch from one to the next, there's a time penalty. And literally, the research shows that you could take you 25 to 100% longer to get 2 or 3 things done if you're switching back and forth than it would if you just do one, get it done, and move to the next one.
Yeah.
So what I say now is never multitask, because it's a surefire way to screw up more than one thing at a time. But if you focus, if you use the power of your will to hold what you're doing on the screen of your mind and just get it done and then move to the next thing, you're going to get a lot more done. And in the terms of your life, if you can use the power of your will to focus on what you want and on your dream, kind of like I'm sure you did when you decided to be an Iron Man, you were pretty focused on Iron Man, yes?
Yes. Which is why I'm not doing one now, because I'm not going to do it.
Right. But you're focused on the business now, and look what's happening to the business.
Right.
Okay. So there's a way to develop the mental muscle of will, but you're not going to like it. You're not going to like it. It's kind of similar to your favorite word.
Okay.
Okay. If you want to develop the power of your will, the power to focus on one thing to the exclusion of all everything else. Which, think about mental toughness. If you're into a race and your legs are hurting and your back's hurting and you're thirsty and you're hungry and you're focusing on all those things, the race is just going to keep getting worse. But if instead you could use the power of will to focus on crossing the finish line and how it's going to feel and the medal and the celebration afterwards and the beer, then it would go much better. So the way to develop that muscle is to put a little dot on the wall or on a piece of paper or even on your finger if you want to, whatever. But put a dot on the wall and practice just staring at it and not thinking about anything except the dot. dot. And if a thought comes into your head, you just say, oh, that's a thought. Nope. And you picture just washing it away and go back to your dot. Or you can do the same thing with the candle flame. Just stare at the flame. And if you can learn to dismiss extraneous thoughts that come into your brain, that's the power of will. So good luck with that one.
Yeah, I'm going to enjoy that dot exercise.
All right. Imagination is the third one that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
Imagination is an amazing, wonderful, powerful thing. It's one of those things we can do that the animals can't do. But yet, we've been taught not to do it, right? Little kids, you give them a pile of Tupperware, and they've got garages and cars and airplanes and drum sets, and they're just having the time of their life playing with Tupperware, right? Their imagination. But then they go off.
Well, before electronics.
Well, yeah, there's that. Never mind that.
Now they're like, what am I supposed to do with this Tupperware? Go outside and play? Exactly. What?
Yeah. but then they go off to school, and little kids sitting there looking out the window, daydreaming about playing on the playground and about being a race car driver when he grows up, while he's a professional football player, while he's also an astronaut, and all this imaginative stuff's going on, and the teacher's hand slams down on the desk, and there it starts. Stop daydreaming. Daydreaming is for babies. Get your head out of the clouds. Pay attention. And that's where logic starts. Use your logic, weigh the pros and the cons, take a baby step, play it safe, get your head out of the clouds, protect yourself, and all that nonsense. But the reality, we're taught not to use our imagination at all. But imagination is really the key to success. So, if you think about it, everything in that room right there, the door, the chair you're sitting in, the clothes you're wearing, the headphones in your ears, none of that would exist if somebody hadn't had some cockamamie idea to invent something using their imagination. Right?
Yeah.
We'd be sitting around in loincloths under a tree somewhere having this conversation.
Looking like sumo wrestlers in our diapers.
That's right. So, problem is we've been taught not to use our imagination, even though that's the key to achieving new things, which is the key to feeling happy and fulfilled and loving life.
Right.
But because we don't try to use it, it's a muscle that's totally atrophied. It doesn't work anymore. So logic takes hold. And logic uses our imagination against us. So anytime we have an idea, we imagine all the things that could go wrong, that might happen, that are bad, all the reasons why it won't work, and what everybody's going to say, and we just use our imagination against ourselves. Yep. So that's kind of silly, right? So the key is to realize that imagination is a powerful gift, and it's meant to be used. So not only should we be dreaming and imagining what our life could be and what we want it to be, but anytime that little voice pops up in our head and we want to quit and our mental toughness is going to the curb, we can use our imagination to think about everything we could do to get out of the situation, everything we could do to make it better, everything that could go right, everything that's going to happen when we succeed. And so you kind of combine imagination with perception, and you change your comparisons and imagine what you want and how to solve the problem instead of imagining disaster.
This is very Mr. Rogers. We're gonna go like get on the trolley and we're gonna
That's
use
right.
our imaginations to do what we need to do. But I loved Mr. Rogers.
Me too. I actually just
Yeah.
saw a video clip about him when he saved public television. He was an amazing guy.
Yes, he was. He was. So someone just commented, Kate said, I always imagine the worst. And is that more natural than people that don't?
That is human nature. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what we're talking about here is that because we're conditioned from a very early age not to use our imagination because we're supposed to be big kids now and focus on the assignment and, stop dreaming, the muscle atrophies and logic gets hold of it. Logic wants to keep us stuck. The best way to keep us stuck is to keep us from changing. The best way to keep us from changing is to have us imagine all these horrible things that are going to happen if we fail, when we fail, if we try. So yeah, it's normal.
Hmm.
And I'm saying let's turn it around. And like we talked about in the Bully in Your Brain series, imagine that little bully sitting on your shoulder, yapping in your ear as you're imagining all the worst, and just flick it off and go, no, what if I did succeed, and start imagining the better outcomes. Think about if your child came to you with all this gloom and doom. Wouldn't you sit down with them and try to help them think through the good side,
Yeah.
right? So do it
But
with
what
yourself.
about, okay, so I do this. I think I have a crazy imagination. And so I imagine I will sign up for an Ironman and I will do it in 11 hours. And then I come to reality. So maybe my imagination wasn't crushed completely as a child. But I mean, what do you think about, you probably see that a lot. I mean, we see it a lot in racing, people that imagine that they're going to do X, Y, and Z. And then once they kind of get going, then they crash. I mean, does that mean we have a little bit more of our imagination muscle working, or what is that?
Exactly. Yeah. So for some people have better muscles than others, just like our physical muscles. So yeah, some people are still good at imagining good things, but then the
Hmm.
power of will is not developed. So
Okay.
they don't focus on that success. And their power of perception is not developed. So they compare everything that's happening along the way and eventually talk themselves out of what they imagined as being a silly pipe dream. So it's just a matter of one or the other combination of muscles not being developed.
So we have to develop all of these muscles. Man,
Yep.
you're good, Deb. You're good. Okay,
Okay.
got it.
Okay. So let's turn that into a metaphor. Wouldn't you look pretty
Okay.
goofy if you only developed your right quadricep and you ignored your left leg and your
Like the bodybuilders in the gym who only do upper body and skip leg day.
Yes. Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes, Deb.
Okay, so you ready for another one?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. Memory is a mental muscle. So we all know we have a memory. I mean, all these things, we know we have them. We know we have a perception. We know we have an imagination. We know we have memory. But we typically don't know that they're intellectual faculties and that we can develop them instead of them using them, so logic using them against us. And memory is a
Okay.
perfect example. Um, your brain is a record of your past. Everything you've experienced and everything you've learned is wired into your brain. And we're going to talk a lot about that in our upcoming program with the Your Brave Mind series. But literally, you have memories of everything. Well, logic wants to keep you stuck and keep you where you are. So anytime you get some cockamamie idea to do something new or exciting, or anytime life smacks you in the face, logic grabs hold of a memory. It literally goes in there and says, remember this, the time you
Right.
failed, fell on your face, what that person said. And then the imagination kicks in of, oh, but what's everybody going to say now? And oh, what would I tell them this time? And oh, how am I going to feel? And then perception kicks in and you start comparing how it's really happening already. And then you use your power of will to focus on all that crap happening. And guess what happens?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
our memories control us because of that thing we talked about in the beginning where thoughts cause feelings. Feelings are chemicals, and we're addicted to those chemicals. So we are really good at dredging up the same old memories over and over and over again and festering, ramping them up and making sure that we feel worse this time than we did the last time we talked about it, because that keeps us stuck in our cycle to make sure we don't change.
Ugh, I don't like you anymore, Deb. I had this experience yesterday. Delete, go off air. So I was coached yesterday, and I have Half Ironman Augusta on. I've registered for it, and I don't really have the will, number 2, to do it. And I think that's okay. I mean, I have a lot going on, and I think it's a matter of priorities right now. But what you just said kind of rang true with me, because when I think about doing Augusta, I think about how I work so hard to get to a race, and then I fall down on the run, or I think about the memories of all the times I've worked really, really hard for a goal, and then the race is a mess, and so that's totally, I still don't know if I have the will to do it, like, because there's my logic talking. But yeah, when you said that, I thought, about Augusta and how my memory, when I think about trying to make a decision for a next race, is very, that's what comes up first. It's like, well, every time you've done a race, you are a mess. So maybe you should not do that anymore.
I am working with a client right now. Of course, it's confidential, so I can only talk about certain things, but she is a multiple Ironman. She's done many, many, many races successfully, but her first one ever, she DNF'd. So she signs up for an Ironman, she DNFs, gets pulled off the course, and then she goes on to complete one after another, after another, after another, successfully. And to this day, this is something we're working on together. She will never tell anybody she's doing an Ironman because she's convinced that she's going to DNF and doesn't want to go through that embarrassment again. Even though everyone's...
I get it.
So...
I get it.
Okay. So you want to start learning to develop the memory muscle and use it for yourself?
I don't know. I don't know if I want to do Augusta. If you fix me, then I'm going to have to race, Deb.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Yes. Go ahead. Slap me some memory muscle. Let's go.
Make a list, literally. Write it down, because if you just think about it, then logic's going to start controlling everything. You're going to go squirreling off to the bad side again, or the dark side if you like Star Wars. But literally write down a list of things you've done well, that you're proud of, that you've accomplished. And I know there's already some people out there that are...
Yeah, people hate this. No.
But I'll give you 3 right off the bat that every person on this call is probably done. You learn to walk, you learn to speak English, and you learn to eat on your own. We're born goal achievers. We're good at this stuff until the beats it out of us.
Okay, that's true. We learned to walk. Huh.
Yes. Try learning to walk as an adult that's been crippled.
Right.
Try learning to speak another language as an adult. Not cool. So if you write down a list of things you have done that you're proud of, and then you catch yourself starting to go down a negative path, you can summon one of those memories and dwell on it for a few seconds or a few minutes until you turn yourself around.
A lot of people don't want to even do that exercise, though. A lot of people...
Exactly.
But is there an alternative exercise?
An alternative exercise.
For people that...
Well...
I seriously know some people that would be like, I don't have anything I've done well in my life. Which is not true. Is that just being like not true?
Yeah, okay. So for those, the alternate exercise is to ask someone else to say one thing. One thing. What's something that I've done that you think is pretty cool, or that you think I should be proud of?
On Facebook, you can ask. People ask those dumb questions all the time.
That's right.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
I mean, you only need a couple of these to be triggers to go to. And you know, the Iron
Mhm.
Man example we were just talking about is a perfect example. Every time the bully comes up with, "You're going to DNF again," my client can now say, "Yeah, but I've done X number and look at me, and my last one was this fast." And then she can start a rant about how successful she's been since the DNF.
Yeah. Okay. I like it.
All right. You want another
Yeah.
one? Or am I wearing you out? We've only
No,
got four.
no, you're not wearing me out. Okay. I've took a deep breath. I'm ready.
Okay. All right. There's this bad boy called intuition. Now,
Oh, okay, now I'm out.
okay. So intuition has a couple of sides to it. The one side it's basically our ability to pick up on the vibe of another person. So, you know, you walk into a party and you look at your friend and you're going, "Oh, I don't get a good vibe about this." You know, it's just,
We're gonna get busted.
yeah.
Oh, not that kind of party.
Or I love this one. You walk in the door at home and your husband's standing there. "How was your day?" "Fine." So he's saying fine, but you know things are not fine. The dog's hiding under the table, and you're like, "Ooh, I gotta get to the shower." Excuse
Yeah, right.
me.
The vibe. So intuition
So
is the vibe.
it is. That's one side of it. Um,
But
it's
wait,
kind of it.
is
Okay.
int okay, maybe I'm getting ahead, but is intuition, can it easily be confused with perception? Because
It
like
can
if you're
easily.
getting a vibe, that's you're perceiving that vibe, right? Is or is that
That's
am I on
true.
another planet?
It could be. And the other thing is
Okay.
it gets easily confused with logic, and that's why I'm kind of presenting all sides of it here, and then we'll bring it full
Okay.
circle and
Okay.
sure it makes sense. But intuition is also that little voice in your head, that the good little voice, like the good witch, you know, that urges you forward and gives you all these cockamamie ideas and helps you dream, and like the cheerleader that usually the bully squashes on the head and tells to shut up. That's also intuition. So
Okay.
there's two voices in your head, and they're battling all the time because the the uh, the spiritual side of you is wanting to grow and expand and accomplish more things. That little kid part of you that learned to walk and talk and eat, and that just wants to keep learning and growing and doing, that has a voice too. And you know, and if you're religious, that's the voice of God. I mean, God speaks to us through intuitive burst. You know, Wayne Dyer, I believe it is, used to say that if prayer is us talking to God, then intuition is God answering back. So we get these bursts of intuition of I should, I would like to, I could, and then wham, the bully steps in and squashes it and makes sure no, let's not.
Right.
Right? So
Yeah.
try learning to distinguish, like you said, between perception and imagination versus intuition, learning to distinguish between the voice of the bully and the voice of intuition, that's where it gets tricky.
Okay.
So here's what we do about that. um, Basically, if something pops into your head that kind of gives you a sense of thrill or makes you smile or excites you in some way, you know, I should, I could, what if I, then write it down. If you're driving, literally find the closest parking lot you can and pull over and write it down. Or speak it into the voice messaging thing on your phone if it's safe to do it, or whatever it takes to capture it. Because if it's truly intuition, first of all, you're capable of doing it because you're not going to intuitively want something from the heart that excites you if you're not capable of achieving it. You're just not. You know, if you're 5 foot nothing and weigh 400 pounds, you are never going to have a burning desire from the heart to be a jockey on a horse. You're just not. If you've thought of it and it sparked that little piece of excitement that even if it only lasted a second, then it is possible. But here's the
Yeah.
thing, logic's going to jump in immediately and help talk you out of it and use all these intellectual faculties against you so that you imagine everything that could go wrong. You use perception to figure out why it's never going to work and why it won't happen to you and why it's a stupid idea. And then you focus on all that stuff with your will, and you remember all the other times you failed, and you don't even try to go after it, and you only had the idea 5 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Or the other thing logic will do is pull the amnesia card and just make sure you forget the cockamamie idea before.
Yes, totally.
So the first thing to do when it comes to intuition is capture it, write it down, make a voice message of it, whatever it takes. And then when you revisit it, you've got to decide, is it my imagination and my perception trying to fool me? Is it logic trying to hold me back? Or is it intuition? And that's where I teach a little thing called the 4 questions. Okay, so 4 questions. Let's say you got the idea of, I would like to move from the mountains to the beach. Right away, logic's going to say you can't because, and we can all sit here and think of 85 reasons why that would be stupid and you can't afford it and the kids are in school and yada, yada, yada. But question number 1, do I want to move to the beach? If the answer is yes, then so far we're talking about intuition, not logic. Yes, I would like to. You're kind of excited. If the answer is no, then we're done. If you don't even want to do it, then why pursue it? That's logic. Okay, so answer number 1, yes, I want to do it. Answer number 2, question number 2, is it in alignment with my vision for my ideal life? So if the rest of your goals involve being a professional snow skier and selling your house so that you can travel around the world and live on cruise ships and then that would be stupid to move to the beach because it's not in alignment with the vision for your life. Okay. So I know you've been through some decisions like that with the lawyer and the Ironman and which is which, and you went through that very process.
Yeah, I've been having lots of shake it up fun lately.
Yep. So if you want to do it and it's in alignment with the vision for your ideal life, then the third question is it moral and ethical, legal? Am I breaking any laws or anything like that? Okay, it's moral, ethical, and legal. Yes, it's intuition. I'm going after it. Final question, am I going to have to step on somebody to get it? Violate the rights of others?
Do it I like that one.
And that one should be a no. So yes, I want it. Yes, it's in alignment with my vision. Yes, it's legal, moral, ethical. No, I'm not going to step on anybody. Well, then go for it. And don't let logic talk you out of it. Take it one step at a time and start making it happen, just like you did with Iron Man so many years ago.
That's awesome. That's awesome. When I set the goal for Iron Man, number 4 passed muster, I would not have to step on anyone. But however, when I got into Iron Man, I frequently stepped on my family. So you have to go back to those questions. Maybe.
Well, yes, and so deciding to do the first one and you get everybody on board and you figure it out, well then you get hooked on it and I'm going to do 4 more this year. Well, now you got to go through the questions again because are you stepping on your ones? Is it in alignment with the vision for your life? And that kind of relates back to the blog you just did when you almost signed up for Ironman Florida. It wasn't in alignment with the vision for your immediate future to rebuild your body and build your business. So.
Right. You're on to something, Deb.
All right. Well, that's 5 ways to enhance mental toughness. Beware of your perception. Use your will to focus on what you want instead of what you don't want. Use your imagination for everything that will go right, could happen as a consequence of instead of the bad. Remember all the things you've done. Use your memory for yourself instead of against yourself. And listen to your intuition, to your gut. And if you've got a burning desire pops into your head and it kind of excites you, then you know you're capable of it. So how bad do you want it? So that's 5. Should we quit or should we give them the bonus?
Oh, give him the bonus. Come on. Bonus,
That
bonus,
kid,
bonus.
bonus. Okay. Number
Wait, am I
6,
gonna like the bonus?
yeah, I think you will.
Okay.
I rearranged them on purpose. I wanted to save reason for the bonus. Usually I do it first, which is why Angie gave you the list in the order she did. But
Ah,
reason is the 6th intellectual faculty. And the reason I'm saving it for last is because it's so similar to logic that it's easy to get it confused. But logic is
right.
our past and our present, and it's used against us. Reasoning is our ability to think for ourselves independently of logic, or to use logic to help us to control it. So it's the biggest thing we have that the animals don't, right? An animal, a cow can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, but the cow can't use its imagination and it can't reason its way into a better life. I mean, have you ever driven down the road and seen a cow hop out of the pasture, jump up on the fence, and say, "Yo, fellow cows, this is baloney. Look at our life here. I want to be like the horse over there. Let's go live the life of a horse." Ever seen that? I hope not.
Not in a cow, but I'm starting to see those kind of characteristics in my lizard because he's like tapping on the glass. But someone in our group said that he's a velociraptor, like he's learning because so I think the lizard might be the exception because I'm watching him and I think he's got a little bit of intuition and reason kicking in. But anyway, carry on. Carry on.
Okay, let's hope not. All right, so animals can't use their sense of reasoning to use the rest of their intellectual faculties to create a life that is beyond their current circumstances that they're stuck with. So we
Okay.
can reason our way into what we want and into a better life. We can learn to get that gut feeling of intuition and capture it, and then use our imagination and our power of perception to figure out how to make it happen and what it's going to be like when we get it. And then we can use our will to focus on it, and we can remember everything we've done in the past that'll help us get it. That's using the power of reasoning to use the other mental muscles to pull it all together into a nice little package so that we can beat logic and get what we want and stop justifying why we should be happy with what we're stuck with. So that's
I
the
like
bonus.
that. And it's interesting you just said be happy with what you're stuck with. I think a lot of our, and this will be our logic talking, is, and it's good to have gratitude, but I think a lot of times we use gratitude as a crutch, right? To say, I should be grateful for what I have and stop
I
trying
should be
to,
grateful. Yep. Yep.
yeah.
So
And
so here's a
maybe,
little
well, how does
tidbit.
that fit in?
Okay, so here's a little tidbit. Um, Gratitude is actually one of the keys to success, because if we're not grateful for what we have, then why should God or the universe give us more?
Right.
We've got to be grateful and happy in the moment, and fulfilled. And I mean, if we're not enjoying the journey, then why bother?
Mm-hmm.
The problem is the conventional wisdom has taught us that we should be satisfied with what we have, and that if we're not, then we're beating greedy little brats. And really, the opposite is true. We should never, ever be satisfied with what we have, because that spiritual side of us, that little kid that was born to grow and expand, wants to keep growing and expanding. So we should always be happy in the moment and grateful for what we have, but never satisfied, and always excited about what's to come.
Big distinction between
Yeah.
gratitude and stagnancy. Is that
Yeah.
a word? I know you like to make up words, so you'll appreciate that one.
There you go. I mean, one of Logic's favorite weapons that he gets all of us with is that whole "you should be happy because," justifying why we
Right.
should settle for what we're stuck with. I hate that. I was really good at it for 8 years, but now that I know what I was doing, I hate it.
Yeah, I mean, that was me in the legal profession. You should be grateful
Yep.
you went to law school. You should be grateful for the salary, grateful for the
Yep.
headache, and
Yep.
yeah, and
Exactly.
I was, and I am very grateful for that experience. It helped me it allowed me to be able to discuss Supreme Court cases on a podcast today, which was unforeseen.
There
But
you go.
yeah, I knew I wanted more, and so I think that's a great distinction between gratitude
And
and just
yeah. And the best way to harness the power of reason, which in turn kicks in all the other intellectual faculties, is to always be asking yourself, how can I? So that's the way you build that muscle. Whatever it is that comes
okay.
up, how can I? Instead of this is why I can't and I shouldn't because, and
Hmm.
well, if I do, then just how can I? How can I? How can I? And you don't have to solve the big picture. You don't have to be on your couch, 50 pounds overweight, never having exercised in 5 years, saying, how can I run an Ironman? You can be saying, how can I do a 5K in 2 months? And then a month
Yeah,
into your 5K training, how can I do a 10K? And you just take it one step at a time, but every step of the way, how can I, how can I, how can I?
I love it. So to answer the question, how can we get more of this? I will tell you. So we have a great program. It's a series, actually, Your Brave Mind. I'm just along for the fun ride and the silly jokes about my lizard. But Deb has created this series, Your Brave Mind, and we start the next one on June 26th. It's called Toxic People, Toxic Thoughts. I always want to get that in the right order. So what is this next installment going to be about, Deb?
Oh, this one is amazing. I'm so excited. In fact, we were finalizing some things about it today. In the initial installment, The Bully in Your Brain, we talked about what logic is and how it controls our thoughts. And we started to dabble into the emotional side of things because let's be real, it's hard to control our thoughts when we feel like crap. And the feelings
Right.
cause more bad thoughts and we get in a cycle. So on this next program, we're going to really dive into what's happening in your brain and in your body that's causing all those feelings. And believe me, I have a degree in engineering, so this is not going to be advanced biological stuff. This is on a very elementary level, but it's powerful. And you're going to learn why those feelings are grabbing you, how to beat them, and what's going to happen because of it. And the bottom line is, if you can learn to control your thoughts and your feelings, which is what I'm going to help you do, then you can create the future you want instead of settling for the one you're stuck with. You can enjoy the
Right.
moment, enjoy the ride, even though stuff's crashing down around you that otherwise would have been devastating. And here's the bonus, it actually affects your health. You're going to be healthier, you're going to feel better, you're going to have more energy just through controlling your emotions. So it is a
Yeah.
packed week and it's going to be awesome. I'm so excited.
Yeah. I'm super excited. So you guys can learn more about that offering. You do not have to have been a student of Taming the Bully. There's no prerequisite this time, and we'll catch you up. And so we start on the 26th. So if you can join us, there's a lot more of this great information and aha moments, I promise you. Just great. So thank you, Deb. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. This is awesome. Can't wait to do some more.
All right. See you soon. Bye,
All
everyone.
right.